everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Self-Published Success, a show that highlights forward-thinking authors who chose self-publishing over traditional and found success in doing so. My name is John Feldman, founder and CEO of Visionary Literary, and your host for today's show. Our guest today is Lynne Bowman. Lynne is the author of Brownies for Breakfast, a cookbook for diabetics and the people who love them. She's also co-authored 2 books with Days of Our Lives star Deidre Hall. Prior to authorship, Lynne worked as an actress, a makeup artist, a screenwriter, an illustrator, legal journalist, and even won awards for her work as a creative director with Silicon Valley companies. Lynne has experience in many creative worlds, and she's here to share her advice with you, the aspiring author of tomorrow. Lynne, welcome to the show.
Very happy to be with you. And I don't know if it's advice so much as it is just war stories. How about that?
Hey, war stories are advice. We love, so it's advice in the form of stories, which is the best kind.
Yeah.
So thank you again for being here. Before we hit record, we were talking about your background, and there's so much there. I briefly scraped the surface. So tell us a little bit more about you, about your background, and then what got you into writing.
Well, and really, this is all because I'm old, which makes your bio embarrassingly long, right? And I like talking about being old because look what we're doing now. I mean, here I am. I won't never see 75 again. I mean, that ship has sailed. And we are talking to each other coast to coast.
Yep.
Making it up as we go along, having a great time. And what fun. I mean, how cool is that? So very happy to still be breathing with you and able to do this. And my self-publishing, John, goes back to PageMaker. My first book was done in PageMaker. Now raise your hands, everybody, if you know what that is. And it was the first self-publishing program. It was the software that made us all able to do our own books. And of course, compared to what we have now, it was pretty clumsy. But my very first book, which isn't here on the table and you didn't mention, is one called Fast, Cheap, and Skinny that I did with a friend in the 90s. And we self-published it. Who knew that you could do such a thing? And I did the illustrations, I did the cartoons, and we put it out. And so that isn't that long ago, really, but it seems like ancient history now. And then these books that I did with Deidre, and you asked how I met her. I met her in 1967, we think, when she was a freshly minted model from Florida, and she'd just come out to California to start her modeling career. And I was advertising manager for Redken Laboratories, which is a hair products company, for those of you who don't know. And I was seriously over my head, John. I was 21 years old and had only been working there for 3 weeks. Went in, everyone had been fired but me in the advertising department. So
no pressure.
I mean, I went into the president's office, a woman who I admired and was thrilled to have a woman, first of all, CEO of a company. And I said to her, lied. I said, no problem. We can do this. I'll hire who we need. I'm all yours to make this happen. And of course, went back in my office and just went, And so I called all the vendors and said, you have to teach me. You have to show me everything I need to know so we can make this work. And so the printers, the reproduction people, everybody, they were great. They took me into their plants and their offices and showed me. And so it was my emergency grad school in marketing and advertising that just happened the way life happens. And so one of the first big jobs that I was putting together was a shoot where I needed a model like her, and she walked in the door. You choose models from a head sheet, and I looked at the head sheet and went, yeah, she's like this Angie Dickinson kind of thing. She's great. And she walks in the door and she's this skinny, freckly little thing from the South. And I fell madly in love, and so did she. And we've been friends, dear friends, close friends ever since. So, and you can imagine, I mean, boy, life changes us, right? I mean, from your early 20s, teens into your 70s. So interesting to go along a life path with people. No idea. I mean, she had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And so how did we decide to do books? Well, you want the true story, of course, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
True story, but story. Yeah.
Story.
Mm-hmm.
We were sitting at her kitchen table in Santa Monica, and she said, I've got this trip to Australia booked with this cosmetic company. Want to go? And of course, what I said was, well, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll make it happen. And I had little kids and everything, but my sister took the kid, whatever. So I said, yeah, great idea. Australia. Always wanted to go. Let's do it. But you need a book. Well, what do you mean? You can't go without a book. You have to have a book, because that's what you do when you do these tours. You need a book. Oh, okay, let's do a book. So she lives in LA and I live in Northern California. So I drove home, and of course had the book sort of composed in my head by the time I got home.
Yeah.
And did a first draft and sent it to her, and she added some stuff and made some notes and sent it back. And in 6 weeks, John, we had a book.
Wow.
Edited, composed. I had a friend that I had done some design work here on the coast who said, yeah, I'll do it in my program. I don't even remember what program she used, but she said, of course, I'll do it. So in 6 weeks, we had a printed book.
Wow. Dang, cover and everything included.
Everything.
Oh
Here
my
it is.
goodness. Yeah, that's very that's a short window, even for today. Incredible.
That's what happens when you work with a journalist.
Yes, that'll help.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't have all day. Let's do
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah. And
We've got
that
uh, so we have readers that are waiting. So we did that one, and I mean, it's not a thick book. It's on the skinny side, but it was great fun to do, and has the recipes that chiefly I made, but she and I would make together. I was more the cook in the friendship than she was, but she was a great supporter, and she kept saying, this is a great idea, we should tell people about this. So that book did well, and
that's
then
excellent.
we did another one, which is more obvious for her. It's How Does She Do It? It's more of a beauty book, but it was all about kind of real beauty. Where does beauty really come from? What is it? How do you create? And of course, she is known. Oh, and we put pictures of ourselves from our 20s in it, which is kind of fun. And there's what you would expect, how to do your eyes, and some little cartoony bits where I'm making snarky remarks to her. But it was a very personal and friendly. It was directed sort of at her fans, and they loved it. Happy to say.
Yeah, that's good. The interior is very, for anyone who's listening and not watching, the interior files there are really good too. And that's something that it gets a lot of when people think of self-publish, they think that they're unable to add images, graphics, layout, bulleted things in there. Yeah, there's a ton that's inside that book that is really, really nicely laid out. And that's something that it obviously was possible back then too.
It was very possible back then, but
Yeah.
what's changed in the industry, John, and that it was all about social media.
Yeah.
It was about promotion.
Yeah.
And I felt very over my head in this new milieu where I did not have expertise in this kind of marketing. I mean, even with all my years, I mean, literally from 1964 forward, I'd been in marketing, advertising in some form. But now, game's changed. It's Instagram, it's YouTube, it's a whole new world. For example, you got a podcast.
Yeah.
Who knew? Know
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
Well, how do you do that? What? It didn't take long for one of the people that I was podcasting with, Magic Barkley is her name, Magic, if you're listening, um, from Melbourne, Australia, which isn't that fun? We're doing this all over the world, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
And we'd had a nice chat. And I said, so Magic, how are you booking all your podcasts? You're doing really well. Oh, darling, she said, it's so simple. Really, you just go on Podmatch and it's
Yeah.
like Tinder for podcasters. And
Yep.
so I started figuring that part out. And in fact, podcasting has become the most fun, I think, thing about
It
the new
is.
public. It's a
Yes.
blast. It's
Yes.
great. And you have to do that. You can't just put a book out. That's my advice,
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah. Then that's good advice, because obviously with the tools of today, you can, like you said, you can write a book, you can just push it out. And if that's what you're looking for, if you're writing the memoir or something, a lead generation book, like that's okay. And you can get the book out there. But there are, like what you were showing for anyone, again, who's just listening and not watching, your cookbook has some very high resolution images. It looks great. If you want to have those kind of things in there, then there are some different, page quality, page kind of traits that need to be included, that's not so kind of cut and dry.
Yeah.
However, like you were saying too, a lot of the marketing, so that's something that I wanted to ask you, especially when it goes back to writing with Deidre, right? So she is a big time TV star, and she can obviously reach out to any agent in New York and say, hey, I want you to write and publish this book. But instead, the two of you decide, like, let's do this together. Let's do this on our own. And you publish it on your own. So was there a conversation? I know it happened very quickly over the span of 6 weeks. It went from idea to being printed. Was there any conversation there, like, hey, let's find a publisher or a literary agent? Or were you like, let's
Yeah.
just do it?
Yes, there was.
Okay.
And in fact, thanks for asking, because that brings back a good memory. I found this gal, I think it was New Yorker article, something like that, gal named Jan Miller, big time agent, doing all kinds of stuff and being written about. And I thought, okay, let's just talk to her. And of course, Deidre's name opens doors,
Right.
which, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So pretty soon we had set up a meeting with this gal in New York. We had a lifelong dream, a publisher lunch, right? In New York, in Manhattan, with an agent. Yeah, okay, I've arrived. It was great.
Yeah.
And we actually signed up with her, and it never really went anywhere. And I'd have to remember exactly why. I actually, unfortunately, I don't remember exactly why we just decided not to proceed that way. I think probably, knowing us, because it wasn't that much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be more. And we wanted to do things our way.
Yes,
and
that's important.
One of the things you learn about working with a publisher is they want to do things their way.
Yes.
They want to publish when and how and with whom they want. Yes. And when the publisher is done with you, they own the piece. And so if they want it to die, it dies.
Yeah.
And I think I speak for most of us when I say we don't want our stuff to die.
Right.
We want that book to be reprintable, reproducible. We want it to have a half-life. And so something happened along the way, and we decided not to proceed with whatever we were proceeding with, and we went back to just doing our own thing, which worked out fine for
Yeah.
us. We also recorded Audible book. Both of those books we recorded brilliantly, may I say, in a closet in my living room with blankets all around, with a friend of mine on the recording equipment, John. Thank you once again. His name is John too,
Yeah. Good
and
name.
it turned out fine,
Yeah.
and we enjoyed it, and Deidre's fans seemed to really enjoy it too, because it was like having her in the car,
Right.
with that, and
Right.
and of course she and I were riffing on the book the whole way. We were laughing about and adding things and so on, which is fun about doing Audible books.
Yeah.
Love Audible.
Yes.
So, also a thing that we authors need to consider now in a way that we did not used to.
It's funny that you say that, in the closet with the pillows all around. So that's how most of us now, because we can all record our own books for
Right.
nonfiction books, right? For Deidre, that's very important for her fans to hear her voice. So you
Yes.
just like surround the mic with pillows and then you, you talk into it. But now with AI, you can have an auto-generated voice. Like for nonfiction books, you don't want to do that because you want your voice. But for a fiction book, if you typically you outsource that production, the audiobook kind of recording, narrating to someone else, now you can literally press a button. You just copy and paste all of your text. There are no errors, no going back, no editing. It's all AI. So it's very, very interesting and very exciting to see what comes of that.
This is our creepy new world.
Yeah, it sure is. It
And
is.
publishing, as you say that, this is my studio. I guess you can't really see the whole thing, but I've got a whole audio set up there
Yeah.
too. And the hard part about being a writer, an author now, is that I used to have a room full of people to do what we now do ourselves.
Yes.
So that means you get to train yourself as an audio engineer, as a software engineer, as a voice talent, as a promotion guy. I mean, the list goes on of
Yeah.
all the skills that you yourself need to bring to bear to get your stupid book out.
Right.
When really all you wanted to do was
Was
write
write a
the book.
book. Yeah. Yeah. There is a lot more to it. And I'm glad to hear the excitement that you and Deidre both had working together, and I'm sure you did with the cookbook as well, about the excitement of doing everything on your own and the importance of ownership and keeping it and having that thing living from generation to generation. When you write and publish a book and you do it on your own and you publish it to Amazon, it's on there for as long as Amazon will exist, which I'm sure will be into eternity. But the there's a lot there. There's a lot to say about the fact that the two of you had this ideal lunch with the agent, and with Deidre's name and with your background and your connections, the two of you could have easily gotten a book deal. But the fact that you chose, even before self-publishing is what it is now, which is literally just click a button and you're published, it was a lot more to it, and the two of you decided to go that route. So that says a lot about self-publishing, and just that creative ownership that you get to retain. So excellent stories there. Excellent stories about the two of you, about you and your cookbook. So tell us a little bit more, I guess, about why you wrote your book, the cookbook, not the books with Deidre.
For the same reason so many of us do things, John. My kids told me I had to.
Well, there you go. That works.
Uh, they say, and there's so many things that we don't know about ourselves
Yeah,
until our children point them out to us. Sometimes
that's true.
happy effect. But
Yeah.
what my kids told me was, Ma, you never say anything without including a recipe. Why is it that whenever you tell any story or give anybody directions to do anything. It's you drive down the street and then you know how you make that strawberry thing with the whatever. It's just always with the recipes. And why don't you write them down? You have to keep writing this down. And I'm like, well, I wrote the book. No, you need to write the stories of you in your kitchen now.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, okay. And I did a draft and I sent it out to my readers and, of course, my adult children. And I got the drafts back saying, where are you? Where is your house? Where is your... Because I grew up I'm old, right? And I grew up when we did not talk about ourselves. We did not take selfies.
Yeah.
We didn't show ourselves to the world. I mean, if you were an actress or a model, okay, but there was a job and you did your job and that was the end of it. The whole idea of opening your kimono to the whole world, so that took a bit of work for me to kind of go, yeah, okay, I'm grandma. I'm going to tell some stories about the food and about myself. And so I went back to the book and put myself back in it and sent it out to my very critical readers again. And they're going, okay, all right, that's more like it. That's better. So it is a bit autobiographical. I do drop a name or two in it. Let me just say.
Oh, sneak peek.
Mm-hmm. And it was fun and interesting to do and important, I think, because the reason I did it really was to save lives, literally. I'm a diabetic and have known since I was in my 40s that I was a diabetic, type 2 diabetic, and was driven, John, by the fact that my mother died young. I was 18 when she died. She was in her 40s of a chronic disease. And it is a disease, she died of kidney disease, which is less preventable, although there's some new research about that. I became aware that I had this sort of Damocles hanging over my head, diabetes. I did not want to leave my kids. I did not want to die. I didn't want to be sick. So I did everything in my power to learn how not to be sick. Yeah. I'm now not diabetic, technically, because I've reversed my diabetes. And this is possible for many, many people to do, and they don't know it. Yeah. They don't know that they're making their kids sick, that they're making themselves sick, that they shouldn't be doing that they don't have to do that. They can choose not to do that. So I want people like you to make the decision to not have diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And the book tells you how not to have it or how to reverse it if you have it. And the same formula goes for heart disease, for fatty liver disease. We have this epidemic of terrible, chronic, debilitating chronic illnesses that you can choose not to have. And it's all right in the book. And I'm not the only one writing about it, but I'm the only one doing a fabulous, fun, semi-autobiographical approach, the granny approach. They're easy, they're forgivable. I'm not giving you a whole bunch of bioscience that you have to learn. Do what's in the book, do what I tell you, and you'll be healthy.
Well, and it has a great title too, Brownies for Breakfast. I love that. And Thank I also, you. It's so funny though. Like you saying that you didn't want to leave your kids, like when you're younger, and I know from when I was younger, like you're reckless. And then the second that you have your first kid, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die someday. What, I can't leave that. You're trying to like do everything you possibly can to prevent that awful scenario from happening. And you just go on this like different life journey of non-recklessness. So it's so cool to see that everything that you've done, just based on that one thought, and then this book that you've put together. I love that the autobiographical portion is in there, because as hard as it was for you to kind of open up and put that information in there, it really it connects with a reader so much more than just a standard cookbook that gives you, you know, ideas and recipes. So I'm sure your readers thank you for that. Your family obviously thanks you for it. So for all the readers that will go out and buy this book, I'm sure you'll thank Lynne for it as well. So Lynne, where can we, first off, what's next for you? Is there another cookbook in line, or what's
Oh,
next?
you bet.
Yes.
Actually, I'm working on a couple of the same. One is donuts for dinner. Look for it soon.
Love it.
Um, yeah, and that comes from a story. My kids, I mean, single mom, 3 kids, crazy life, and we'd be driving home, and I'd be thinking, oh, yeah, you know, what do you really want for dinner, kids? And they'd all go, donuts, and I'd go, okay. So we would, yeah, but so the book tells you how to make donuts for dinner that are healthy and that will help you prevent diabetes.
Love
Um,
it. Love
so
it.
yeah,
So when should we expect to see that?
in a few weeks,
Oh, okay.
coming soon. I hope it's going to be a shorter book, and it will begin life probably as an audio book. Strange for a cookbook, but
Love it.
you know, I'm a pioneer, as you already know, in self-publishing. So I'm not afraid to do something stupid. You know, we learn from our failures. It's all
Yes.
right.
Yes. Very true. So this will not be a failure, I guarantee it, because it already has an amazing title. But where can
Yeah.
the listeners find that book and your other work?
Well, everything will be on Amazon. This one, Brownies for Breakfast, is of course on Amazon, and my bestseller on Amazon. And in your independent booksellers, if you just ask for it, it is available from anyone that you ask. Just make sure if they go, no, I'm not carrying it, go, well, will you please order it for me? They will order it for you. And then please, for me, say, you know, you should be carrying this book. It's blowing up.
Yes.
That would help. That'd be great.
Yes.
I'd
So
appreciate it.
when you go to the register at your Books a Million or Barnes and Noble and you ask for the book, be act very surprised when they say they're not carrying it, because booksellers will, if there's enough incoming traction for a book, they will place it on their shelves. So
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Lynne, thank you so much for sharing these incredible stories. Awesome journey. Congrats on being the risk taker and choosing self-publishing way back before anybody was really, before it was as easy as it is for people of today to self-publish their books. There was a lot more work, but you retained that IP. The book did not die out. It's still on Amazon, still doing great, and people can still read it.
Yep.
And we'll, for the listeners, we'll place the links inside of the show
Thank you.
notes for you to buy.
Thank you.
So thank you again, Lynne.